The airport was loud, a river of voices, rolling suitcases, and scattered goodbyes echoing beneath the steel and glass dome. People rushed through security checkpoints, tapping impatiently on their phones, their eyes tired and unseeing. But for the security officer at Gate 23, that morning would never fade from his memory. He was new, fresh from academy training, sharp uniform, stiff collar, the kind of man who believed every rule meant something. When the woman in the long dark coat approached, quiet and calm, he barely glanced up. She looked ordinary enough, with short graying hair and a duffel bag slung over her shoulder. He asked for her ID in a professional tone, routine and rehearsed. But what happened next shattered his idea of ordinary forever. When she reached into her bag, a small black box slipped out and hit the counter with a soft metallic sound. The latch popped open. Inside lay a metal so rare, so sacred, that even photographs of it were locked behind classified walls. The man froze, his breath catching as the light caught the engraved edges. The silver star with a black edge, an honor reserved for a kind of hero the world never got to know. She quickly closed the box, but not before he saw her trembling hands. The faint scar that ran across her wrist and the number tattooed faintly on the inside of her forearm. Coordinates. Her name was Major Evelyn Brooks, and once, long before she became just another traveler with tired eyes, she had been the silent force behind one of the most classified missions in modern history. Years ago, during a covert rescue deep in enemy territory, Evelyn led a small team to extract civilians trapped behind hostile lines. The mission was never meant to be public. It wasn't even supposed to happen. A diplomatic order had canceled it. But Evelyn, unable to accept the idea of leaving innocents to die, disobeyed. She and 5 others went in on their own, without orders, without backup, knowing that if they were caught, no one would ever claim them. Only 3 came back. Her official record was buried, her heroism erased, her name struck from every roster. The government couldn't afford to acknowledge what she had done, but someone, somewhere, had seen her bravery. Months later, she received the unrecorded medal, privately handed to her in a dark hangar by a general whose eyes couldn't meet hers. "No one can ever know," he had said. And for years she lived by that silence, working ordinary jobs, moving from city to city, trying to forget the faces she couldn't save. The world outside moved on. People saw soldiers come home with honors, flags, and cameras. Evelyn came home to nothing. Every night she folded that black box away in the drawer and told herself it didn't matter. She had done her duty, but guilt is a shadow that never stops following. She would wake up sometimes to the sound of rain and think it was gunfire, reach for her sidearm before remembering she no longer wore one. The only reminder of her service was the limp she carried and the invisible weight on her shoulders. That morning at the airport, when the young officer asked for her ID, she didn't expect the past to catch up with her. The medal falling open felt like the universe had stopped her from hiding one more time. The officer, trembling slightly, looked at her in awe. He didn't recognize the medal by name, but he knew it meant something far beyond protocol. For a moment, they both stood in silence. Behind them, passengers complained. The line moved impatiently, but the air between them was frozen with something deeper: respect. She gently handed him her ID, and he scanned it, still shaken. It came back blank. No service record, no history, just an unlisted civilian. She could see the questions in his eyes. Who are you? What have you done? But she simply gave a faint, tired smile. "You won't find me on any list," she said softly, her voice trembling just enough to betray the memories buried underneath. Then she took her ID back, picked up the black box, and began to walk away. He wanted to stop her, to ask more, but something inside told him not to. You don't interrogate a ghost. You just salute it. That night he went home and couldn't sleep. The image of the medal haunted him, the glint of silver and the faint black edge that meant sacrifice without recognition. He searched online for hours but found nothing, and maybe that was the point. Some heroes are written into history books, others into the silence between lines. The next morning he placed a small folded note in his uniform pocket. "Not all who serve wear medals, you can see." Evelyn's flight took her to a small coastal town in Maine, where she had bought a quiet house overlooking the sea. The wind there was harsh but honest. She spent her days fixing boats for the locals, her hands steady despite the memories that sometimes shook them. No one knew her past, and she preferred it that way. But sometimes, when the ocean was calm and the sunset hit the waves just right, she would open the black box, look at the metal, and whisper the names of those she lost, not in mourning, in gratitude. Years later, when she passed away quietly in her sleep, the only thing found beside her was that same black box and a folded letter addressed to whoever finds this. The letter was short. Don't remember me for what I did. Remember them for what they gave. If you ever meet someone who looks ordinary, treat them kindly. They might have carried the world once. When her story eventually reached the world, through a retired officer who remembered that day at Gate 23, it became a quiet legend. The story of a woman who carried a secret honor and never asked for recognition. The medal she was never supposed to have now sits in a glass case at a small veterans museum, unmarked by name, only labeled, for those who served without being seen. And every year, on the anniversary of that rescue mission, a single white flower appears beneath the case. No one knows who leaves it. Maybe someone who once stood at an airport checkpoint saw the impossible and never forgot. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Legends of History, where untold stories of courage, sacrifice, and silent strength live on forever. Special request: tell us in the comments, what part of Evelyn's story moved you most? Her silence, her sacrifice, or the moment she was finally remembered?